Little bit of lag. All right, all right, all right, all right. Howdy, folks. My name's Dave. I'm a woodturner. Thanks for joining me tonight. Just gonna go for it. I've got a couple pieces to turn. I've got some green wood actually tonight. So I've got some cherry crotchwood. I've got it's crotchwood. We've got some walnut that I think is still a little green, but I can't swear to it. But I do have some other pieces that I got from a friend of mine that I wanted to turn tonight too. Gave me some nice ideas, these pieces. Anyway, before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about lathe maintenance. And the reason I'm bringing that up because I just turned a rough turned a 12-inch by, oh gosh, I think it was 7 inches deep. Let's see. What are we at here? Maybe that's 6. So, it almost fits on my head. I got a big head. Anyway, this will be a twice-turned bowl. It is about 5.5 inches deep and 12 inches wide. So I've got it turned thicker. We're going to let it air dry, do its thing, make all the movement it needs to make, and then I'll turn it again. There's a piece I picked up from Peace Place today. I didn't want this was a log half, and I did not want to leave it sit too long, so I rough turned it this afternoon. Anyway, threw lots and lots of water off to me, which brings up the subject of lathe maintenance. So I'm going to turn the camera downward here a little bit. Is that too far? It's a little too far. You went too far, dude. That'll work. All right, so you can't. I already did one pass on my ways here, and you can't really see. I mean, there is some rust stains here, and this is not like Robust has stainless steel ways. This is cast iron, like most other lathes. It's a cast material, so you gotta maintain it. I did try using paraffin over the surface of this, which kept the rust down to nothing, but paraffin is also really, really slippery, so I had a hard time keeping the tailstock, the banjo, and then even the one-way spindle steady to keep it from moving, because even though you crank it down real tight, you got that thin layer of paraffin in there. And so paraffin is a really nice lubricant, like on I'll do that on my tool rest. I'll use that to help my tool slide a little bit better. I definitely use it with the Jameson hollowing system. I use it all the time. It's just a regular paraffin candle. Matter of fact, I'll show you what I got. So this is just the top half of a paraffin candle. I cut it in half. I use the other half up. Mostly, I still got some left, but I'll just take this and rub it across the surface of, say, let's grab a tool rest here real quick. And it works really, really great with a hardened tool rest like Steve Sinner's tool rest. I'll just rub a light coat on there just take the candle and do it like that, and now it's got a really slick surface, slicker even than just the hardened stainless steel. So it's a really, really nice trick to use. I don't tend to use it a lot on, I mean, I do use it on my Jameson tool rest, but not as much as the other tool rests because it is a softer, the tool rest itself is a softer material than like the tools. So it can take some damage and dings and shit, and I have to dress it up every now and then to try to keep this as straight as possible. But I don't tend to use, except with the Jameson hollowing system, I don't tend to use paraffin on this because I get those little dings and scratches sometimes, and the piece is still catching those dings and scratches. To me, it's almost a waste of time. I only use it for the boring bar, the paraffin for the boring bar when I'm using Jameson's hollowing system. That's pretty much it. But on the other tool rest, I'll use that paraffin if I feel like I need a better glide. Really, really nice trick to use, and it doesn't gum things up. So anyway, you can't really see. I did one pass already, as I said, with the ways. They got really rusty. The cherry was throwing off a lot of water. So I have, it doesn't matter really what kind of oil you use. I think because I've used just regular 10W30, I've used the Deep Creep here, Seafoam, WD-40 I've used, and I really like the Deep Creep Seafoam a little bit better, only because it does really help pull up some of the rust on there. So I'll just spray a little bit on the ways here, and then I have just an old piece of abrasive that I was going to toss out. It's still got some grit to it. It started off as 180 grit. Yeah, 180 grit. I wasn't ever going to use it on wood anymore because it's pretty much wore out for that. But it's really great for just having some abrasion on the top of your ways here to pull up that rust and clean. It'll pull up tree saps and resins. Get things off of your ways as much as you possibly can. And I tend to go in a circular pattern like this instead of back and forth because I always feel like, I mean, it's cast iron. I'm wearing away part of the surface with this. If I just continually go back and forth, I'm going to eventually get a hump in there. And so I feel like if I just go in a circular motion all the way down, then that kind of helps mitigate that possibility. So that's really all I do. I try to pull that up. If I don't, I'll do it once. If I don't think I did a good enough job, I'll do it again as I just did. And I don't throw these out into the trash or what have you because that is oil. And oil really likes to be closed up in a some kind of a container with combustible materials. It will self-ignite. When I clean off my ways here, I'll use a piece of paper towel, but then I will take that piece of paper towel and unfold it and hang it over something that gives it airflow from both sides. So, and leave it sit there until the oil has evaporated, the volatiles have all evaporated away. Do that with linseed oil too. It does not take very long, it turns out, for rags soaked in linseed oil closed up in a container to start on fire. So I'll unfold it. You see it's got the rust and other crap that I pulled up. The discoloration also is from some of that surface material coming up. But I'll hang that over the edge of something, actually my workmate bench over there, and it'll have access to air on both sides, and that will help get those volatiles out of there before I get rid of this in a proper fashion on trash day. So 1 second, I gotta hang this up. So doing this, as I say, does a couple things. Let's move that abrasive over there. Cleans up the rust, any kind of glues, even plant resins, sap, water, but it also helps maintain your ways. When you're not turning, it's just sitting here with the atmosphere floating around it. But it also lubricates a little bit, so if you have screeches and squeaks as you're moving across the ways here, I still got a little bit of squeaking going, not much, but everything moves a little bit easier. And the oil, and I'm not talking about paraffin, but like I said, I've done this with WD-40, engine oil, and I guess it was 10W30. I've tried 5W20, same thing, doesn't matter. And the seafoam. I like the seafoam because it's, I think it protects just a little bit longer than, say, WD-40. And the thicker oils are a little bit harder to mop up, but they all seem to work the same. Help keep the rust away even when it's just sitting in the atmosphere not being used, which in my case isn't very long. Not very long in between uses of the lathe, I'll tell you that. Okay, so I want to start off, I thought this might be really, really cool to do. I have two pieces of timber here. Bear with me, I'm trying to juggle, moving stuff around. Got my death towel ready to go. That'll be on the wrong side, of course. There we go. So let's pull these guys out. I'm going to move these scrapers aside. Connor Mallow, you're welcome for the piece of wood I gave you yesterday. Hey, yeah. Yep, I got some wood from Connor Mallow yesterday. Today I picked up some cherry from Marv Slee, who's a member of the Turning Club. And Joe, well, they're not quite the same size, but that's all right. We'll make them so. Or will we? Well, I'll work with what I got. Let's see what happens. I've kept these. I only had them for a couple of days, but I kept them in a bag to slow down the drying process because I wanted to turn them before they started seasoning and possibly cracking. And I can see there's a crack right there. Yeah, right there. But I believe we'll be turning that away. Let's see about this guy. So they're already starting to misshape and malform because of the drying process. Although, I don't know, I couldn't swear to this one. It looks like part of that problem may have been the way it was cut, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, they're very close to the same size, so I thought it would be cool to turn them both, make the same thing twice, but on one use nothing but scrapers, and on the other one add actual gouges and stuff, and we'll see the differences between the two. I think that if a person is comfortable with using a scraper to turn, then they should do that. It doesn't hurt to learn new things, new tools, new techniques. But if that's what you're most comfortable with and it keeps you turning, then do that. Do that. There's nothing wrong with using scrapers. All right, so I'm going to find the center point-ish on the, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to go for balance point. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll just grab this guy first. Move this guy aside, and we'll go for balance point. I think I will probably wind up taking off this bark as well. Maybe it'll stay. Well, we'll find out. I believe this is maple. Yeah. So we'll go for the balance point. And we'll do that on both, and we'll turn them from there. Alrighty. Raise this up a bit. Loosen up the tailstock just a tad to see where that goes. It's looking fairly straight on this side, but let's just kick it up a little bit. I'm probably going to rotate the other direction now, as I think I just went too far. Yep. Alright, you need to stop moving. Loosened up a little bit more. There we go. So that's where that's at. Alright, so I'll bring this side up here back to the original hole, and we'll go for the front point. You know, it's not too bad, but let's go for the balance point. If that's what we're doing, let's do it. So that one's just a shade off. Let's do that. So I'm going to call that good. I think, let's see, that's actually thicker here. So we'll say that this is going to be the bottom. And we'll turn, well, they're not going to be square dishes or square platters or like that because of these chainsaw cuts, and I haven't done anything with them, so that's what we have to work with. We'll make them, or will we make them round? Oh, I got a question. Let's see how far my bark comes out. Oh, dude. Oh, dude. Yeah, we'll make them round. We'll make this one round. Alright, let's make sure this is secure. And we'll set this up. We'll start off with scrapers first. I'm going to need some glasses. Oh, that was another thing I should talk about. Let's do that also right now. So when I turned that much larger bowl, it was a half a log that I chainsawed down to the size that I could get on my lathe between centers and on the balance point. So I wound up with, I've got, this is a 14-inch swing on this lathe. The largest turned object, and it was a bowl actually. The largest turned bowl I've done on this lathe was 13.5 inches. That is like really close to the ways there on this particular lathe. So I'm usually doing, I don't know, anywhere, I think the biggest diameter I usually do is probably 10 inches. Because, well, for one thing, a big thing about safety is you got to work within the limits of your lathe. Now, this is a 1-horse motor. I don't know, I'm not sure. I think Jet now does sell this particular lathe with a 2-horse motor, which would have been much nicer to have, more torque. but this is a one-horse motor, and it can struggle with the bigger pieces. I tend to stick around, like the largest piece typically is about 10, except for this bowl that I roughed out. It is 12 inches across. It'll be a little bit less than that because the wood's gonna, as it dries, is gonna warp and change shape, so it's gonna be out of round. I'll have to true it up. But that was a very large chunk. We're talking 7-inch tall, with the tenon that I had on it, 7-inch tall by, well, when it started, it was 13 inches in diameter, with all the chainsaw marks and all that. So I really only had to take off, because I took my time with the chainsaw, I really only had to take off about an inch in turning to get it round, and then hollowed it out and left that inch or so thickness all the way through. Working within the limits of your lathe, and that was definitely pushing the limits of this lathe. I have, like I said, I have the experience. I follow all the safety things that I can follow. One of them, for sure, because that was a large chunk of timber, is I didn't just wear these. I also wore this, and I actually haven't cleaned it. You can still see all the sap and dust and stuff on. I need to clean this off. But and I thought about twice turning that piece live. The issue with that is that when this is in front, and I'm talking a lot louder. Well, let's use my regular voice. If I'm talking like this, you can hear better. But if I'm talking like this, it's probably not so great. So I went ahead and, since I had some time before the show, and I didn't want to lose the piece, I went ahead and roughed it out. So when I have large pieces like that, bark's going to come flying off, or I'm going to have to be in the line of fire, meaning in the path of the rotation, I always wear a full face shield. When I'm doing spindle work, my safety protocols change based on what I'm turning. Now, in the beginning, I wore a face shield for every single thing that I worked on, which, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but I found that doing finials, spindle work, stuff like that, I needed to be able to see a little bit more clearly, and found that I also did not need as much impact protection as I would with a larger piece like a bowl or a larger lidded box that I would do, especially if I'm turning it green. Greenwood will squirt out of your chuck. I mean, any wood will do that, but green wood compresses much more when it's in the jaws of the chuck. So and you can get a really good grip on it, but it can still squirt out. It's green wood. It's flexible. It can tear and break easy if you're not. I mean, if you get a bunch of catches. People who have turned for a while out there in our community here can relate. It's you have to be aware that this is a piece of machinery spinning a chunk that has mass and weight to it, inertia, spinning it around in a fashion where you are applying metal implements against it. Yes, sharpened edges, yes, I get that, but it's a metal implement. A catch is a catch is a catch. If you approach it incorrectly, you're going to get a catch. It doesn't matter what tool it is. And that can be, it can be anywhere from a design change to a catastrophic reevaluation of the piece, I guess would be the best way to put it. And hopefully no bruises or anything like that. The things can fly off. So I understand that there are some clubs and some venues that if you're turning, you have to wear a face shield, and I'm down with that. That's fine. but I understand the risks that I'm taking, and I understand, through experience and what things are going to happen, or what I can expect to happen if I happen to get a catch. On a spindle piece, it's not going to come flying off the lathe at me. The shavings don't typically go, like a bowl gouge would, up and over. They can go over, but usually it's not up and over like that, and most of it falls straight down. So for me, having these safety glasses for something like that is plenty good. These are impact ANSI actual safety glasses. And then when I need or feel like I need, or I'm working with a piece that pretty much requires that I need some kind of filtration to my air supply, then I will wear a mask. I do that when I'm sanding. I'll do it when I'm working with exotic wood. I'll do it when I know that I'm kicking up a lot of dust off of the wood. I'll do that with seasoned wood, like I've got a piece of, I don't remember what the heck it is, but it's got nothing but beetle holes and beetle dust in there. I would turn it live, but it would create such a dust cloud that I don't think it would be a good video. I'm not sure. I might turn it anyway someday. Who knows? But I definitely have to wear filtration for that. And again, it's all safety-minded stuff. Maintaining your lathe, the sharpness of your tools. It all comes together in a wonderful skein of a scarf that you wear. I guess you could say there everything's woven together. It's a lot of little pieces. So definitely, I do definitely recommend getting instruction if you are unsure, especially if you're beginning. If you can find a decent instructor, they can knock miles off your journey and some of the hazards as well. All right, let's get back to this guy. Let's move this guy back down. Am I in the right spot here? Yeah, it looks good. Yeah. Cool. All right, so this is going to be the bottom of this piece. And this ought to be interesting because I have not turned an entire piece. Where'd my fish whacker go? It fall down, go boom. There it is. Where's that is? Sorry, folks, bear with me. I got to grab my fish whacker. There we go. Yeah. Lost my train of thought, was looking for that. This is going to be the bottom of my piece. I'm going to turn both of them essentially the same. Actually, I'm going to do my best to copy them exactly as closely as I can based on the tools that I have. So I am going to start. I'm going to do nothing but scrapers on this one, which means that I will probably need to dress up my scrapers on a regular basis during the broadcast. I'll have to step away and put a fresh edge on it. I always want to remember that I need to maintain in this case it's going to be the burr, which is going to be the cutting edge. I need to maintain that edge at less than 90 degrees. So if my handle is parallel with the waist, then that is exactly to the face of the piece 90 degrees. In order to decrease that, I need to raise the handle. And that not only takes away, oh God, man, 90% of the catches, if not more, we'll be conservative and say 80 to 85. We'll be conservative. But this is the proper orientation for the scraper anyway, because you don't want to ride the bevel on that. You want that burr to make contact. And speaking of which, I think that's got a good burr on it. So we're good there. So I'm going to use scrapers, and I am going to use my skew as a scraper because I will need to get into a corner and I'm not sure that my flat scraper here will be able to let me do that, because I want to create a foot or a hold that I can put into the chuck. Now, we've got a little split happening there. We'll see how much of this we actually get to keep. It's going to be partially round. I'm hoping that some of this stays. Like I say, it's going to be partially round. It might be all the way around. I'm not sure about that one yet. So I've got it, I don't know, 800, 9, I don't know, almost 1,000. So I'm just contacting the burr on this. I'm already having trouble because this tool, I'm getting stuck on my tool rest, so I need to change out tool rest. This one's hanging me up with that scraper. It's not a round shank, it's a flat one. So I'm going to go for a hardened steel, which will allow me to skate across easier. Let's bring this guy way up here. I think that's about right. Let's see. I can do that. And I swapped out the banjo today because I didn't want to have to deal with that compression thing. I thought there was a possibility that I would have to swap tool rests more than once. Alright, so this should make things a little easier for me. Yep, there we go. Clearly cutting a lot of air, but you can see now I'm getting tear out on this bit, but I'm coming around this corner that already has this out, so we'll hopefully be able to resolve that. That's a little too close, and I think need to rotate this way some, so I'll go 45 so I can go back and forth. Let's make sure that that is, yeah, that's a good, I think. No, a little too high. I don't want the handle straight up. Alright, still got some good burr there. Now it may sound like I'm putting a lot of pressure on this, but I'm not. Get a little bit better edge, surface, so I'm going to turn this up on edge. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm trying to use up all of the burr that I got because I'm going to have to go back to the grinder here. So getting a little bit of tear out right in this area. and just a touch there, but I need to redo my burr. And I'm getting covered in shavings and dust and stuff, but I am getting some clean cuts. So I'll be right back. One of those things is going to have to happen a bunch of times. And this is probably the main reason I don't use scrapers a lot, because I have to go to the grinder a lot more often. So let's try this guy. Back off just a bit. Yeah, that should be all right. So in essence, if you're going to use nothing but scrapers, which again is a perfectly valid way to turn, it just means you're going to be sanding a whole lot more, clearly. It's still a perfectly good tool to turn with. So we're going to get kind of odd shapes. Let's see, let me think about this, because clearly these two corners, well, you know, I went to the balance point. So these two corners, were down lower in the circle than these two corners, because these still have some corner to it, and this is all flattened out now, rounded off. I think I'm going to go a little bit further. I want to keep as much of this bark as I can. I think that will be cool, so I'm just going to round it out a little bit more. I know that means on both pieces a lot more sanding on the end grain, because I'm not carving into that. But let's make these a little more round. See, I mean, I am pulling off shavings, but I'm also pulling off dust. The difference being I'm hitting side grain, end grain, side grain, end grain. On a bowl, at the very bottom of the bowl anyway, be hitting all side grain, and on the outside it is end grain, side grain, end grain, side grain. But there is a difference in the direction of the grain, so that is why bowl scrapers work as bowl scrapers. That's what they're designed to do. They work very well for that. Okay, I'm going to take this down some more. I think I'm going to have to put another edge on here. Actually, I know I am. But I think I want to play with this some more first. And with scrapers, I do have to say, when you're using them correctly, less than 90 degrees, you're working with the burr, you're not trying to skate the whole bevel and all that stuff, it's almost impossible to get a catch. So they are very, very safe tools to use. Okay, so I'm getting I got a little bit of split there. Hopefully that will turn away. We'll see. I need to put another edge on this guy. So clearly you can see here side grain there, except for that little bit where it goes kind of funky. But that looks like it's a little bit of burl wood. Wow, that's interesting. A little bit of burl in there, and it's going to get all chewed up. But that's the way it is. It's we're going for broke with both. Kind of looks a little burly in there. We'll see once it gets cleaned up. So. Got a fresh edge. Let's go for it. So scrapers really like side grain. When you go with the grain as opposed to against it. So with the scraper especially, you want to cut downhill through the fibers. You know, I can't tell. Maybe that's, no, I don't know. I don't think that's the barks. This is the ends closer to the tree. You know, it does look a little bit burly, but I think because there was a branch that was growing out of here at one point, doesn't look like it survived the process, or it got broken off and grown over. So we'll see how that turns out. I think I'm getting a lot closer to, I'm getting a lot closer to the shape that I want, that I will have to copy. So again, it's not a lot of, not putting a lot of pressure against the piece with the tool. Most of my attention is keeping it flat on the tool rest, or keeping it in place on the tool rest, anchored to the tool rest, and I've got it tucked underneath my hand and into my forearm. So if there is any kind of a weird, well, I guess you'd call it a catch, but sometimes the grain changes direction, and so it can kind of drag the tool. I've got my whole arm and the rest of my body holding it in place, so it's much more difficult for it to move that way. But it is the same finesse as it is with any other tool. It doesn't need a lot of force or pressure to actually turn the wood. Now I've got to put another edge. So this will be trip number 3. Probably think I'll leave the grinder running. So that already is a big difference, is that this is the third trip I've made to the grinder. Fortunately, I have CBN wheels, so I don't have to worry about the wheels wearing down fast. So I got a little bit left there. All right. Let's see. I think I'll go a little bit more. This is something that I would like to discover, and at some point I will. I kind of feel like, oh, there was a little pith there, so there was something. So that must have been the pith of the main tree, and this is where the branch was growing out and didn't make it. Okay, let's see. Trip number 4. But anyway, I'd like to discover at some point if my theory is true, because I think that, with the exception of like hook tools, and I think they came probably a little bit later, that a lot of the stuff, I mean, turning started off as basically being scrapers. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the skew is one of the earliest knife edges or edges, tools like that, like a bowl gouge and all that. So I don't know. It's something I think I'd really like to discover. So I will do some research. I guess the main point being that I don't agree with people who say scrapers are not a valuable tool in wood turning. If that's what you're familiar with, comfortable with, you can deal with all that, then by golly, that's what you should turn with, man. Just the bottom line. Alright, so that was trip number 4. This guy, ooh, man, I got a little bit left. Let's do... got the tool kind of turned up on edge. It's not flat on the flat, so I can make contact a little bit better with just the burr. And there's also a reason why there's a bowl scraper and a box scraper and other scrapers. because they work. Okay, trip number 5. Now, my grinder didn't used to be on the other side of the lathe. It used to be like right next to me. But I made some changes to the shop. I'm not sure that I like yet, but I really needed, thought I would have 2 lathes lined up back to back. I don't at the moment. Piece has got some curl to it. That'll probably do. Whoops, upside down. A little bit of shear scraping. See what kind of surface I can get from that. No different than anything else. My cutting edge is just at a shear angle when compared to the surface of the piece. Doesn't matter what tool you use. If it has an edge, you can get a shear scrape. Alright, so it actually cleaned this up a little bit better, so that's nice. I won't have so much sanding to do there. Yes, I am prepared to do some sanding because I am using scrapers. Quite got that. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, cool. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I think I'm not going to sand either one, and we'll see the differences between the two before any abrasive ever gets to it. Let's see if this, I don't know, I'm double checking to see if this will actually fit in the whoopsie daisy large jaws that I have on my chuck at the moment, and I just dropped a bull gouge. So I'm working on getting that out of the shavings with a magnet. Alright, so since I gotta go, I'm doing this because I gotta go hit the grinder again anyway, and that's where the other set of jaws is at. The smaller set of jaws for this Vic Mark chuck. But if I don't have to change jaws, then I'm not going to. Yeah, that should work. Should be okay there. Let's move that over there. So I can set this down here again, and I am off to the grinder. See, this would be number 6, trip number 6. Now, different results will be found with different woods. I would hope that would be obvious. And if it's not, hopefully I just made it obvious. Okay, so let's do this a little bit more that way. Get a little bit of what dovetail I can with that skew. So that was just the, it's a fresh burr, and it was all shavings. Still got a little tear out, but it was a lot of almost all shavings, and that's going to look interesting once it's sanded. Is that the shape that I'm going to stay with? I think so, because I was going just for the balance point, and this is for educational purposes. I think I want to adjust this curve a little bit, so smaller scraper. And I'll go back to my larger scraper to blend that in with the rest. Handle is up, the tool is down, so I have less than 90 degrees with the cutting edge in relation to the surface here. Yeah, that's coming out a little bit nicer there. That is the curve I'm after. Let me just touch that up. So this is a cool little experiment. Like I said, I haven't turned with just scrapers alone, like an entire, well, I guess it wouldn't matter what it is. I've never done it because I learned early that it meant a lot more sanding. Okay. So that is my outside surface. We're going to copy that on the other piece. In fact, let's see, I think we might even be really close to the same, it's really close to the same thickness, so hopefully we'll get some groovy stuff out of it. Alright, so this one is done as far as I'm going to go for now, I think, but let me take this guy, see if I can get rid of some more of that tear out, a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going to say that is, well, let me see here. I got a good burr there. I don't, I do, but maybe let's try this guy. Okay, I think, well, I'm just going to see if I can turn a bead. Well, by golly, I can. Cool. All right, well, shoot. Then that means I'm just going to have to turn some beads. Oh man, this is awesome. I'm learning something new. So I got 2 beads there. That's just freaking cool. All right, so I got to copy that with gouges. You know I can. I just did not know I could turn beads with a scraper. Very cool. All right. Negative rake scraper, by the way. Not a. I didn't try. I don't have one actually. Well, yeah, this guy, but this guy wouldn't be able to turn a bead. So that's pretty neat, man. I gotta say. Let's clean that up a bit with this guy. Going this way. Really like that. That looks pretty damn cool. Alright. Even if I am saying so myself, I don't think I am. Check that out. Is that not cool? That's pretty freaking cool. The ones I gave you were about 7 inches in height, and Connor Mallon says the ones I gave you were about 7 inches in height and 11 inches in diameter. Somewhere 10 to 11 inches. Yeah. And I did not split any of those yet. So, turned 2 beads with a scraper. Awesome. Looks like that bit of pith is going to stay, but that's alright. You can see I've got tear out here where there was feathering. Did not get a clean cut. Although that is cleaner than it was. Just a little bit of tear out on this side, that end grain. So really just these 2 corners, and this is the worst because that's where all the feathering is at from this crotch that was in there. But we're all set now to flip it around and hollow it. So let's see, why don't we do that? Or do we do that? How about we just go for the second one, and we can compare. Like, do we need to? Yeah, we do. Compare the surfaces left behind between the 2. I feel like you're still just a little bit heavy right there. You need to stop moving. Okay, balance point has been found. Got kind of tricky with that big piece of cherry. That wasn't interesting. But I got it. Okay, so this is going to be my bottom, and partial. Well, let's see. Let me rethink this. Let me rethink this. That split is going into right about there. Let's mark that. So it ends right about there, and then I don't know. That looks like right about there. I'm going to clean this out really quick, just to get a better look at it. Okay, so I won't be able, well, maybe I will. I'm going to swap these so that this is the bottom. and make this where this split is the bowl, because otherwise I'm going to lose more thickness than I'd really like to that if I make this side the bottom. At least that's my theory, and I'm going to stick with it. Alright, while my grinder is running, I'm going to throw fresh edge on that one and a fresh edge on this guy, and I will be right back. And then I can kill the grinder for a little bit, because I'm going to use bowl gouge and a spindle gouge. These have been freshly sharpened. Go. Alright, let me measure this foot again. 4 1/8 inches. Alright, so I know what to look for. In fact, since I'm copying it, we'll just mark it. 4 1/8 in half means 2 1/16. Which is essentially right there. Whoopsie daisy, I'm not making a spiral, Dave. There we go. Alright, so now I need to adjust my tool rest height for the gouges. My spindle gouge, that's a little high. It's a lot high, actually. I'll go with that. Might still be too high, but we'll work with it. Okay. Back up on my tool rest a little bit so I don't drop off the end there. So they're clearly not the same size of wood. I'm going to copy the shape of the piece though. Alright, so I got death-defying split right there. So this maybe not come off, but it might when I start doing the bowl. So I got a split there, and a split there that I did not see before. Alright, so I am definitely going to have to take it down just to get rid of that like I did on the other piece. So these two corners will be wider than these two corners. Cool. Alright, not a problem. Not a problem. Let's rotate this around a little bit. Curl to it. Alright, so no curl to the end. How do those corners look now? A little bit better. Definitely some curl in this piece too. Nice. Oh, it's still got some green to it. Spitting water at me. Dun, 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 almost there. Oh, actually, that would be perfect for... Yeah. Alright, so spindle gouge, where'd you go? There you are. Well, before I do that... set myself up for a chuck. Oops. Too far with the wing on that tool. There we go. Now, so that takes care of that part. Then I need to take... That looks really close, but I'll take it down a little bit more. just remembered there's something I could try on the other dish. I should try it very shortly. All right, so no tear out, no tear out, just the tiniest bit of tear out. No tear out. So not even the tiniest bit on the opposite. Oh, let's see, that would be the opposite side. So really not it's easily sandable. So is this, but there is a little bit of tear out right there. That's okay. Let's take this guy. And make our beads. A lot quicker. Well, yeah, I guess it is a lot quicker, but still, be able to turn a bead with a negative rake scraper. That's just pretty. I'm amused. I'm amused. I think that's pretty cool. All right. So there's a technique I saw somebody do that I'm going to try here shortly on the other piece. That's on my shear scraping right there. Got a little bit of flexing going on, but nothing terrible. That got it. Don't want my fingers right in front of it. Yep, that got it. All right, cool. Let me clean this up just a touch. Yeah, that looks much nicer. All right, so that also took care of most of that tear out that was right there. So now a lot less sanding. Let's double check, make sure that my foot here is 4 1/8. I might need to adjust. I do. I guess it doesn't really matter. It's still bigger than the chuck jaws, which is what I was after. So that should be just fine. Cool. Let's go back to the other piece. I've got to try this. Seems like this might be a really good application of this little technique here. Let's get this guy running true again. There we go. Okay, so I did try shear scraping with my scraper. I'm going to shear scrape, or at least attempt it, with my skew. So let's move this over, that all clears, and see what that does for me. You know, I will say, having a radiused skew does make this a lot less intimidating to shear scrape with it. that edge? Nope, but I'm going to go ahead and swap the edge. Whoops, that was a catch. Well, I'm going to have to clean that up, aren't I? It works, I think. Sorta. I mean, it's not any worse. I don't know. I can't say that it's any worse or any better than the actual scraper. Let's see. Still definitely getting shavings. I mean, they're about the same. They're about the same on this particular piece of wood. But I happened to catch somebody, and I don't even, I wish I could remember their name. It was on Instagram. I saw a guy working the outside of his bowl with his skew as a shear scraper, and I said, well, duh, why not? Yeah, I hadn't thought of that myself. But, people use card scrapers for the same thing. So there's really no, fundamentally, as far as I'm concerned, there's no real difference. All right, I'm going to have to take, that did help a little bit. But I'm going to have to take this down some. And a little bit more. I got to get rid of that tool mark where the long point of the skew made contact before I was ready. Or rather, I made contact with the long point of the skew before I was in the right position. I shouldn't blame the tool. Not the tool's fault. Besides, it's an inanimate object. It had to be acted on by an outside force, that force being me. Oh man, that is a lot nicer. I still got, but it's not anywhere near as bad as far as the tear out. So getting that scraper up, it's not quite the right curve. So this will be trip number 7. Trip number 7 to the grinder for this tool. I am not normally willing to do that unless, like, if I don't know, like rock maple, some really hard wood that's really eating my tools up. Yeah, of course, I'm going to go to the grinder. I'm not going to work with dull tools. Working with dull tools sucks, man. But with the scraper, I have not been to the grinder with the bowl gouge, and I'm going to use it again. I mean, we're not counting the first time. I didn't count the first time when I had that first edge on it. I didn't count that. It was just every trip after to the grinder. I have not made a trip with the gouges yet. I think that will be good. I'm going to have to sand it out anyway, so I think that looks pretty good. I can see that there is now a crack showing up now that I got a really good shear scrape. There's a crack showing up there. But it's a very, very tiny, small crack. I don't think I can see it now. If I follow the line, it goes right about there. But that's okay. These are just practice pieces. It's not like meant to be. It's just meant for demonstration, right? Okay, so I now need to match. Well, you know what? I'm going to call that matched. All right, we're gonna flop these around, and we're going to a chuck. And I have the piece that I'm using the scrapers with on top here, so that will be the first one that gets turned. Let's move all that aside. Let's get this guy out of here. Now again, I'm not using any abrasive sand, no sandpaper, no nothing. We're just going to look at them both before I even consider that. I want to see the differences, clear. I've already learned something really cool, that I can turn beads with a negative rake scraper. That's, you know, I've already won the game. How's that? Just to show, because I don't think, you know, I've never seen anybody do a demonstration like this ever. I think this would be really cool. You know, might even do this for the club. Who knows? Again, nothing wrong with scrapers. I don't have any trouble with them. People using them. I use them occasionally myself. For this project, I'm just using it all the way for this particular guy here. So I'm going to pretend that, well, for one, this is too low. I'm going to pretend that this is a bowl scraper. I need to go, I think that'll be, let's go a little bit higher. Need another burr, so this will be trip number 8. I'm really trying to hog things off. Again, it's not a lot of pressure, but I am putting a little bit of pressure on the tool. I'm calling it hogging off. I don't know if that is really, because I'm taking larger shavings, I guess, would be the reason I'm calling it hogging off. I'm not really pushing super hard into the wood. So I want to check where that bark is at. Golly, I hope that stays. I hope it stays. It's still in the drying process, but that's some really thick bark. Hopefully it stays there, please. So I want to maintain a fairly even wall thickness. Still clearly pulling shavings off. Oh, I wonder how that would look from here. Let's see that. So I've gone a lot longer than I probably should have without going to the grinder. I'm going to the grinder again, but you can see what kind of certain I'm giving it a little bit more pressure, so it's going to have a little more tear out than it will in a second. But you can see how that looks. Okay, that's number 9, right? Chat, see if anything's new here. Nope. Okay. So that's number 9. Let's get rid of all these shavings. There's a lot of dust too, but I mean, there is a bunch. It's better than 50% shavings. So I'm getting tear out on the inside on the same spot that I was getting it on the outside. Let's see, let's play with that wall thickness some more. I'm going to move my tool rest in. That's probably a little too close. A little bit more deliberate with the tool control. I got to take that wall down a little bit more. So trip number 10. Just left the grinder running for this one. Okay, let's see, right about there. Okay. A little bit more on the bottom. I hadn't mentioned this before, but to those of you who are curious, I'm still moving my whole body with this tool. It's not my hands or my arms pushing things forward and back, it's my whole body moving. Okay, so that's about even. So I gotta do a little cleanup here. Taking really fine wispy shavings. I had tilted my tool up so it was just the burr catching that to get a shear scrape on the inside. I'm going to do that again. This is trip number 11 to the grinder for the scraper. Hopefully the last one. Tool up on edge. I'm very, very light pressure with the burl against the material. See what kind of surface I get from that. Better, but not great. That's all right. I know with the scraper, it's just inherent. I know I'm going to have to sand. Okay, so I was able to keep that bit of bark. We're going to call this one done. Are we? Are we? Are we? No, not yet. See if that cleaned up the top surface all the way around. No, almost, not quite. How's my burr? I can use that guy, so I need to move this guy here so I can be in the right orientation for that edge. So I wound up using the burr down in here. I just need to move the tool rest, everything to get to. Okay, yeah, that's definitely better. Don't like it, but it is better. Is a shear scrape with just that burr, excuse me, not burl. I think I see my issue. wasn't quite making contact where I needed to make contact. There we go. Now I got it. Okay, so my wall thickness is fairly even. I could do a little bit more work right there. Pulling up super fine shavings. A little bit more work there. So this is trip number 13. I want a really fresh burr on this one. There we go. So I'm setting myself up to where I can move my whole body backwards and forwards. Mostly just guiding the tool with my left hand, which is on the tool rest. And this is doing all the steering. But my body's doing almost all, at least 75% of the movement of the tool is my body doing it. I don't know, just throwing a number out there, I don't know. The bulk of it is body English, for lack of a better term. And that should be an even wall thickness all the way through. Yes, okay, cool. That split's starting to open up a little more. That's alright. So now we're taking this guy off and we're going to go back to the other one with gouges. And we will compare the two. Compare, contrast. Compare, contrast. I don't know. I do know that some of this is coming out and might fly out. I don't know, maybe. I think I will do something about that right now. And I need to lower my tool rest. Hardy har har. Okay, that took care of a lot of it. Let's just break that one out. And I think we'll go for this one too. So that split went pretty far. All right, let's make a bowl shape. Do I still have? Oh, I do. Well, hopefully that has been a better view than overhead scraping inside something you can't see. Okay. So far 13 trips to the grinder for the scraper. No trips for the gouge. Okay, I'm going to have to shorten this guy, unfortunately. Let's see if this will take care of it. I do have to bevel. I do have to bevel the top edge as I did here. There's a bevel right there, so I do need that. Maybe that will take care of where it's low and high. I think so. That guy's side. Now I got to work on my wall thickness. Eyeballing it just like I did with, well, I mean, I'll feel it too, but right now I'm eyeballing it with the bowl gouge. Just enough pressure against the wood to keep the cutting tool engaged. That's the cutting edge engaged. That's all I'm using. Not using any more pressure than that. So we're good here. I need to take this down a little bit more, and I think, oh, I did round that over too. All right. Only going as fast as the tool can cut. Doesn't matter what tool I got. The David Ellsworth finish. And by that I mean I cut off that little nub with the top wing, not the bottom. Already much better surface. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to adjust the wall thickness just a little bit. Whoa, when did you come loose? You're not supposed to be loose, man. So that cut, let's go back to, that's funny. I threw shavings all over the other camera. Make sure I'm in the camera frame here. So that little bit of shaving to get the last little nub in the center of the bowl, I cut with the top of the wing, not the normal bottom wing cut. So that is, and David Ellsworth actually, the way I understand it, he keeps a little bit of a hump up here, not just for shear scraping, but also for that very reason, to get that really sheer cut right across the bottom of the form. So anyway, enough about that. Wall thickness is even. Okay. So the wall thickness is even. I am going to, still got a really good edge there. I'm going to, what am I going to do? I think I'm going to make one more. No, I'm not. I'm going to leave it alone. That's fine the way it is. Everything's cool. Any little tool mark issues or tear out, because there was some tear out here too, will be sanded away fairly easily because it was a gouge. Alright, so now we need to finish off the bottom. And for that, we're going to go friction drive and tailstock support. Just so happens that I've got a glue block down here. It would be perfect. There we are. Anything new in chat? TC Schmo, the shavings were attacking me. Oh, I can't wait to watch that later, man. I'm going to have to watch that later. 3D wood turning. Live and in your face. Where did I put the leather and the... It should be right here. The leather and the shelf, unless I put it back in the drawer, because that's not something I would normally do, but I did it this time, apparently. Fabulous. All right, let's see. There's that one and that one. Yep, that's where I set them. So, rubbery shelf liner, piece of leather. That's it. So I'm going to have to bring this, so we're going to do the scrapey one first. Be this guy. Did I put a fresh edge on this? I do not remember, but I don't really feel like right in here, so I think I must have used it. I don't recall, but I'm going to say I did, so I got to put a new edge on that, which will make it trip number 14. Now, I'm only keeping count, I'm not belittling or making fun or light or whatever. It is that many trips to keep that edge pristine and sharp. I mean, you can baby it for a little while, but this is, at least in my world, the biggest findings I have on using just scrapers. You can get some really nice surfaces depending on whether you're going side grain, end grain, negative rake scraper as opposed to a not negative rake. I mean, you know, there's some variables. I think that's a good position. Let's try this. Maybe tighten that dude down. But there's variables with other tools as well. That is really close to running true. How does that look? Not quite though, so very close. Closer yet. Even closer still. I can accept that. That'll work. I need this surface to be running true. This one is not so important. Let's grab this pointer guy. So this is going to be where my foot actually is in this area. This was the tenon I needed to hold on with the chuck. This is going to go away. That will be my foot. Same thing on both objects here. Nope, I've got to raise this. I forgot. It's probably too high. Why, yes it is. That'll do, I think. Oops, forgot one thing I want to check. I just want enough. Ooh, that's tight. Okay. Just enough pressure against the leather and the shelf liner and this wood block to keep this in place. Don't want to make an indentation on the inside by using too much pressure. It's a friction drive. I just need enough to keep it, lined up and in the center. I've already got it concave. Yeah, not a bad, about a 1/16 of an inch maybe. One more trip to the grinder for this guy. Whoop, I lost that concavity. Hopefully that brought it back. Not quite. It's flat. What the heck, man? That should have done it. It did. So I got my foot there right where I wanted it. Where's my other scraper? Ah, it fell. Alright. Hold on one sec. Because I'm going to want to turn a bead right there. So I'm going to use this scraper to turn a bead again. All right, let's see, number 19? Number 19. Now, I'm not grinding off a whole lot on the tool. I'm just putting a brand new burr on it. But it's going to wear the tool down a lot faster. That's another thing I could share is that I don't have to wear away a lot of the tool to get that edge back, but it's the same thing with my gouges and whatever. I don't have to wear away a lot of material to get the edge back, but I'm not making as many trips. All right, time to turn a bead with a negative rake scraper. There we go. That's a nice bead too. Damn, now that I've learned that, I'm going to be doing that again and again and again. Yeah, you want to see me turn a bead with a scraper? Can't do that. Watch me. Oh man, yeah, that just makes a really nice bead. That's cool. That's cool. Very, very cool. All right, so that bottom is finished other than, no, wait. forgot I've got this guy so I can get even closer in there. Just like I would with my spindle gouge, or will with my spindle gouge. So I don't have so much to cut away or grind away, or whatever method I use. And that's about as close as I can get without making contact with the metal here. I don't want to do that. Alright, there's that bead. Turns a nice bead, man. I'm learning new cool shit all the time. This is awesome. Okay, the last guy, which is with the gouges. Same thing, shelf liner and leather. If I can get that to line up right, there we go. We'll get this guy running true. In theory. Yeah, I hear you. Wow, that was a lot quicker. Alright. Nice. Okay, that's too loose. You see how I can, maybe 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of pressure, I can move that. It's not tight enough. Still could tighten it just a bit. I just want enough pressure to where I cannot move that very freely with my hands. I just moved it. Hopefully I didn't take it out of it running true, but that is the amount of pressure that I'm looking for. Still running true, so we're good there. Whoopsie daisy. Not going to use my bowl gouge up that high. So that was 19 trips to the grinder for the negative weight scrapers. That is plural, scrapers. See if that's concave now. Yep. So I'll take one more pass. I've got a little bit of tear out happening there, but you know, I'm thinking it's just the material for everything. Of course, it's also been kind of half dry, you know. Also not drying evenly. Finish the rest of that with the bowl gouge. Spindle gouge, pardon me. Spindle gouge, not bowl gouge. Same movement as any other thing with the spindle gouge. The hand just comes straight up. It automatically turns into the body's neutral position. Time to turn a bead. Make sure that that bead is not the magnet. Not going to be what's sitting on the table, and it is a little bit, so we'll take this down about that far. I'm using the top wing to make this cut. on the bowl gouge. Spindle gouge will finish it off. And that's all there is to that, dude. I think that'll probably be alright the way it is. Yes. Double check though, make sure that the foot is what, this outer ring is what's actually sitting, and it is. Okay. So, let's get all this stuff out of the way and evaluate what we have. Pardon me while I move all my tools aside. I want to be able to set these pieces right next to each other on the ways here. Lots of shavings, gotta love that. How we doing on time? 10 o'clock, not bad. Alright, so. Oh, they're oriented the same way. How cool is that? Let's get rid of this guy, don't need him right now. Thank you very much, sir. All right, so clearly different sizes of timber, but that's okay. We got the same general shapes. This one is a little bit thicker than this one, so the design, all that is the same. Here, if I bring this, hopefully not. Does that work? I know I can see it really well. There, now you can see this right here, all this tear out. This is from the scraper. And then looking over here, you can see all this tear out. So it's not terrible. It's not like it's gouges and chunks and stuff like that. It's just tear out. And it's not very, the tear out shavings or tear out bits are not very thick. So this would still sand out very, very well. And you wouldn't have to do like a whole lot of work because it's like pull chunks out. It hasn't done that. It's just there's just some tear out, which is nice because having chunks pulled out makes it so much more a pain in the ass. But clearly this is going to need much more sanding. All right, so we look at that one. Now let's look at this guy. All right, this is all gouges. Now some of this is the timber because I've got just a little bit of tear out right here. It's almost not noticeable, but no real tear out anywhere else. Maybe just a little here, but it's mostly primarily right here. I don't know how much of that is due to this flexing while it's turning because it is moving. It is a split crack. It goes all the way across. I think that's in camera, yeah, so it is a split. But so some of that could have been from the vibration, but regardless, it's hardly any tear out. Not going to take a lot of sanding. This one will take a lot more sanding, and I would have to start actually probably 150 grit. I might even go to, well, might even have to go to 120, but I think 150 would take care of that once this is dried. Here, man, I can start at 220. And I was rushing it. If I had taken a little bit of time, more time, actually I could even probably get, I would go 220 because of that little bit of tear out. Start at 220, but it's almost to 320 territory. So let's look at the bottom of the scraper part. So we see we got some tear out here, and there is some nice figure in there. So once this is sanded, and again, it's not like chunks are pulled out or anything like that. It's just there's tear out, and it's very, very thin surface tags or whatever. Like you can see this guy right here. It's very, very thin surface tags, so it would sand out really nicely. And it's in a position where I don't have it in the beads and trying to sand that's going to be a bear. It's all right down in there, and some down right here in the bottom. Some of it is the grain, but it's also the tool. So clearly you're going to have to do a lot more sanding to this piece to even bring it up to this before sanding. So I've got, again, a little bit of tear out. It is some of this is the figure in the wood, and I don't know, maybe some vibration, but the tear out is super minor. This was gouges, so a lot less sanding to do. In fact, this side I could start at 220. Well, actually, I could probably start it at 320 and do just fine. Not this guy. I'd have to grind that away first with some other, sandpaper or Dremel or what have you. But the whole point of the exercise, we'll get down to these tacks, these brass tacks. Number one, you have to make more trips. Leno, let's do this. Let's get right up on the camera. So number one, you have to make many more trips to the grinder to keep your edge, your burr sharp. The burr is the weakest link on a cutting edge. And so that's why I say when you're able to hand draw a burr, it'll last longer because a ground burr it's got lots of serrations where in my case, the diamond, we'll call it a diamond wheel, carbon boron nitride wheel, will leave striations on the tool because it is ground, and that grinding pushes a little bit of the material up ahead of it. As it's grinding down, it's pushing a little bit of material, and that's how we get that burr that curls up over the edge like this. And when you draw a burr, you're actually you're drawing the surface, the material. It depends on the hardness of the material, if you can do it by hand or not. With these scrapers, I can do it by hand. But it actually deforms the surface of the material and curls that up instead of grinding it away and pushing it ahead. You're actually creating a brand new edge. So drawn burrs, in my opinion, because based on those facts that I've come across, last much longer than grinding. But regardless of that fact, still have to go and dress that burr much more often because of the I don't want to say physics, it's not the right word. It's not dynamics. Come on, Dave. The construction, not the construction. You get where I'm going. It's the shape, the way that it's made, the way that it sits on what we call the bevel, quote unquote, cutting edge. With a bowl gouge, we also get that burr curls down up into the front there, but it is not. It doesn't make it a negative rake scraper. That burr, because of the angle that the tool is ground, and it's not a flat surface like with a grinder, that burr is almost completely gone. But that is still your cutting edge. There's still a burr there. So when I have taken my leather and old emery paper and gone through the flute like that, and then gone to the outside with a diamond card to redress that, that is not redrawing. It's not drawing the burr, but it is taking off the more fragile parts of the burr and removing those and leaving you a thicker, more durable burr than you could get otherwise, other than hand drawing it, which is really difficult on a bowl gouge or on a gouge. But either way, you're going to have a burr on your tool, depending on the angle that it's cut is going to, and whether or not it's a flat tool steel, because clearly if it's cutting down this way and it's pushing material ahead of it, that whole flat is going to have that burr. On this, it's cutting it at a shear angle. With a bowl gouge, it's cutting it at a shear angle, and that burr is very small. and does last a little bit longer because of the way that is the the angle, the trigonomics, whatever, trigonometry of it, whatever, it just makes a longer lasting burr. So for the same two pieces, I made no extra trips to the grinder for my gouges. I did nothing other than hitting them on the wheel to put a fresh edge on, and that's it. I didn't do any honing or anything like that. With the scrapers, I also did not do the same thing, but 19 trips to the grinder and more sanding time. Those are other than can't get, well, okay, I'm not even going to say that now because I turned beads. I'll say you can't get fine detail with a scraper, but I beg to differ because I just did it. I just drew beads with a negative rake scraper, so we'll throw that statement out the window. Clearly, there's limitations because the scraper edge, is a lot wider than the edge on a bowl gouge. You're just talking that little landscape right there. On this guy, it's the whole thing wherever you're at. But I've got that burr. Is where I'm trying to make contact, but it's the whole thing is the burr. I'm digressing. Let's just get back to so if you're okay with extra time sanding, I'm not saying sanding is a bad thing. It's not at all. I don't believe that, except for at like 20, 40, and maybe 60 grit, in which case you might as well be using a file. That abrasive paper is meant as a shaping tool. You can refine a few things, but it's not really meant as a shaping tool. That's what the hand tools are for. But still, I got a really nice shape. It will just take extra sanding to get that to where this already is. And that's why most of the time I'm using gouges. I'll use a skew a lot because I've got that. Well, there is no burr on the skew. I work to remove that burr so that it cuts both directions. Just like a pocket knife, you want to get rid of any burr on that so it cuts in both directions. Or even, I bet even a straight razor, you'd probably want that. They don't have one. I don't use one. Clearly, just a guess because it's a knife edge. So it's not the tool. Clearly, practice will get you where you need to go, and then exploration. I had never tried this before. I could have had a spectacular failure, but I was willing to go for it because what the heck? Why not? I want to see if that'll work. And those are nice. Those are really nice beads. Oh, see, that's washing it out. Hold on. I wonder if that helped. That helps. And compared to these beads, which were done with a spindle gouge, they're very, very similar. So clearly you can do some fine details with your scrapers. You can't get into like really tight corners with most of them unless it's a square end scraper or whatever, as well as you can with a spindle gouge, bowl gouge, that kind of thing. So it's edge retention and the sanding time are the two things that I have come up with over the years. Doesn't make it less valid way to turn. It just doesn't. It just means more time sanding. I don't want to do that. But I also want to explore every single thing my tools can do. Now, I just learned this something new today. I'm going to try this about 100,000 times now, and I'm probably going to show it to the club when I do the demo next month. I think I might do that just for giggles. I'm going to have to do it. No real negatives other than sanding time. That's the biggest thing. And sanding time and the many, many trips to the grinder to get that edge retention, to get it to stay. It clearly doesn't last as long as a bowl gouge edge, any kind of a gouge edge, or even but it works. So if you are comfortable working with scrapers and you're having trouble, I can help you. I have done, I've used scrapers a lot. I don't use them for entire turnings. This is the first day, first time I've ever tried it. But there are, it's not tricks, it's just ways to hold the tool. There's ways to address the tool. There's ways to use the tool. It's all tool control and edge, what kind of edge you have, what your tool steel is like, what your stance is like, your body, what speed you're working at. There's a lot to it, but I would be happy to help you. And I'm sure there are plenty of other turners, maybe even in your area, if you're not in the Traverse City area, that could help you as well. I don't know. The only way you can find out is to ask. And if you don't ask, you get no answer. You do ask, the worst they can say is no. And you have to look elsewhere. So what? If it's something that you really want to learn, you'll find the answer. I want to help as many people as I can be better turners. I am always looking to be a better turner myself, which is the reason why I started this channel. I want to be Raging Striker says, "Hey Dad, stopping by to say hi. Fancy plates you got there. Thank you very much, son. Appreciate it." TC Mechanics. Yes, thank you. Mechanics. Mechanics is the word. And Connor says, still good work. Yes, yeah. Like I say, I'm not going to say that. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it one more time. Using scrapers is perfectly valid. If that's what you're comfortable with, do that. If you want to learn about scrapers, do that. That's what I've been doing for the last couple of months, is really getting into scrapers and what they can and cannot do. I don't have bowl scrapers. I don't have box scrapers. I just have regular scrapers that I've modified. I know they make them, but I don't have plans to use them on a regular basis. So the tool skills that I've got for other things are my go-tos, and I'm okay with that. But I still will have a feel for and understanding of how scrapers work and how to use them more efficiently. I don't want to say properly, because there's only like really one or two wrong ways to use a scraper, and one of them is at 90 degrees or greater to the cutting edge to the surface of the wood. That's bad. And the other one is trying to use a dull scraper. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. If you feel like it's just not gliding the way it should, if you feel like it's not cutting the way it should, you're seeing more dust than shavings, go put a new edge on it. Yeah, I made 19 trips, but this is what came out of 19 trips. If I made no trips, this would be a torn up mess. This would be terrible. I have no trouble sharpening my tools, none whatsoever, because I want the best finish I can get. And that is what I hope that everybody else is shooting for too, the best surface they can get off the tool. In the beginning of your turning, it's not going to be that great. Maybe it will. You'll get a couple really good ones or whatever, but it's not necessarily going to be that great because you're still learning. Give yourself time to grow in the art, the craft, the discipline, I guess, wood turning. Allow yourself to make those mistakes. Make mistakes. That's how we learn, right? We don't learn. We learn better, I guess, as human beings by making mistakes than we do by making none. And I guess it's been said that if you aren't making any mistakes, you're not doing anything anyway. So doing nothing gets you nowhere. Is what I get from that. So if I'm gonna make a mistake, so what? Maybe I may not be super happy right at the time, but I know that I've learned something, and I will carry that on, and hopefully be able to share that with everyone else. So I think I've got about half an hour left. So hey, I'd like to throw it open. Chat's always open anyway, but any questions, comments, or observations, maybe your experiences with these tools, if you want to throw that in chat, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. I'm going to stop where I'm at now with these guys. We're going to let them dry, so I'm going to put them over here on my twice turned shelf. I'm not going to turn them again, although I could, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to let them dry to, you know what, I'm never going to sand them either. These are just going to be demonstration pieces. That's all there is, but I'm still going to set them over to dry. So let's do that. Give you folks a little bit of time to type away any questions, comments, or what have you. And we'll just open it up for that. In the meantime, while I'm waiting, really quick explanation. I like to say, if you just walked in or you've only been here a little bit, my name is Dave. I'm a wood turner. I'm a disabled vet. I started turning as therapy for PTSD. Almost gave it up. Thank God I didn't. It's outstanding therapy. But the things that I preach are not the things that I did when I started out, but I was a much angrier individual back then. So a lot more of the PTS. I guess the D too. Yeah. Anyway, I can't say that it was a lot more, but just not dealing with my emotional state and spiritual state all that well. So I almost gave up on turning. I'm glad that I didn't, but I also got, I sought education. Well, I look for education with every turner that I get to know or get to meet. I want to know what their process is, what things they've gleaned from tools, stuff like that, because it helps me learn. But I also seek out professional wood turners, which is the path that I'm on, apparently, which I'm really grateful for. But I get as much education from all around as I possibly can. Try to distill that down to easier, simple, more body-friendly, body mechanic-friendly little snippets as I can to help people like yourselves become better turners too. I want to be a better demonstrator, a better instructor, a better turner. I want to help people become better turners, thus the channel. And I have a lot of fun. I spend a lot of time at the lathe, clearly, but it's what I love to do. It's my therapy. I'm also a beekeeper, so you'll see some of those videos on my YouTube channel too. Now and again, most of the videos are the recordings of these shows from Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So you can always catch up on a past broadcast on my YouTube channel at youtube.com at Dave__Rife. And subscribe to the channel. You'll have access to the full library. So having gone through all that, I see that there's still doesn't appear to be anything new on chat. So I am going to go ahead and wrap up this broadcast a little early. I'll be back again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I've got a piece of cherry crotchwood that is green that I am really eyeballing. I think I'm going to turn that. It's a small piece. And then I got this piece of walnut that I got from Pete that I want to, Pete and Connor on at the club meeting, that I split in two. I want to see about turning some boxes out of them. Hopefully the wood hopefully it's good wood that I can use for boxes. So we'll start those tomorrow night. Thank you very much for joining me on this experimental Tuesday. I just thought it'd be something neat to show the differences. And again, it doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter what tools you use. To me, it matters that you're doing it, for one, and especially if it's something that you love, that you're doing it. And then I want to help remove the roadblocks. I want to help remove the hiccups, the hiccups that I've come across myself. And maybe, I'll learn more as I go along, not just from myself, but from other people, and I'll be able to pass those on as well. So thanks for joining me. I really appreciate the support. If you do like what you see, please give the channel a follow. You will get notifications, the schedule, broadcasts, and any updates and stuff that goes out will go to your email, so you'll always be aware of when the broadcasts will be. And again, if you miss them or you want to watch them again, just go to my YouTube channel. Every Thursday night, I at least no later than Thursday night, I upload the Tuesday and Wednesday broadcast to YouTube, so they'll be there within 48 hours. If you miss part of the broadcast today, it'll be up there Thursday evening. Yeah, so having said that, all that stuff, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I sure did. I thank you for your company. Hope you stay friendly, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'm really hoping I get to see you tomorrow. But if you can't make it, I'll see you next Tuesday. Take care, folks. Good night.